We are back with more NBA coverage, and to get straight into it, I'm going to talk about the Suns and Clippers game that took place on Saturday in the midst of all the other college football action. And that one will be coming, but since this is only a single game that I ended up watching over that time, I figured it just made more sense to cover that initially. First few minutes of the game were kind of marked by this back and forth between Zubac and Mark Williams' contributions at this point. Both of them are traditional centers, of course, but they kind of affect the game in different ways. Zubac has started becoming a more prevalent passer in that Clippers offense and is definitely more of a back-to-the-basket guy. So he definitely got in a good post move, and throughout the game overall, he was getting some pretty good pocket passes from that position on the floor. But Mark Williams, on the other hand, was definitely countering him with some solid defense. Like on this first drive, you had Zubac try to get a pass over there, but he completely blocked out that area, forced an errant read, and they ended up getting the ball from there. Mark Williams is more athletic, of course, so you're going to expect him to go vertical. But even then, with Zubac's physicality, Williams at some points in these first few possessions, he had to just go head up against them and muscle in a few floaters, which he did do with relative ease. I also saw love that Jordan Ott, again, to an extent, it's understood, but I don't really know why he wants to make Dillon Brooks a focal point in the offense. I mean, there's no reason why he should have gotten so many touches in the first few minutes of this ball game. And then he was guarding James Harden the other way, getting into it with him a few good times. Then as soon as he made a shot, he wanted to start talking shit. It's like, you can never make it up with this dude. But nevertheless, for the teams as a whole, I mean, outside of a few three-pointers here and there, neither team was really shooting that greatly. And while the Suns at least would begin to pick it up, man, I don't know what was going on with the Clippers. I don't know what was going on. It was bad. It was atrocious. They tried their absolute hardest. And the Suns, again, were not there at every single point. But they just could not hit one to save their lives. The Suns continued to take advantage of that throughout the whole time, though they would be put at a little bit of a disadvantage. And granted, it's just a relatively unfortunate spot for them to be in. Now, they would end off the first quarter well with Royce O'Neal, getting a three-pointer in to make it a 35-29 ball game. But even with all that good work being done, they would end up losing towards the end of it Jalen Green. Now, he had already been dealing with a hamstring injury to start out the season, and he returned in the last game against the Clippers, ironically enough, getting the most points in a Suns debut for a player since Charles Barkley back in 1993. As good as that was, and I was wondering again, if he did that, hey, watching the game live, okay, maybe he could repeat that if he got a chance. But as soon as he went down, he stumbled. And at that point, I'm like, doesn't look the best. He was getting taken back to the locker room, and you're hoping that it wasn't a re-aggravation of the same hamstring injury, which eventually it would be ruled that he did re-aggravate his hamstring. So he would be taken out for essentially the rest of the game with that. And at this point, Devin Booker was out of the game as well, which is kind of where they hit a little bit of a run. Now, Devin Booker, for what it's worth, is obviously their most dynamic scorer. He's been turning into their playmaker at this point because of how just lackluster they are at it elsewhere. And you figured that as soon as he got subbed off the court, it was going to be a bit of a struggle offensively for them. And that's exactly what happened. Now, granted, All these players that would start out the second quarter with in Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Ryan Dunn, Colin Gillespie, and Nick Richards are not inherently bad. They're all very solid players in their own rights, but all of them just all five of them do not really make up for the lack of having Devin Booker out there. As a whole, their value comes in their being able to do specific things very well. They are not truly versatile players in that regard. We know Dunn and O'Neal are known for their defense, and while O'Neal can space, he's been inconsistent at times. Dunn doesn't really have that quality in him yet, and we're in like 3 years of his career, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's just still, they could afford to leave that man wide open. And if you want him to create his own shot, good luck with that one. That's not happening whatsoever. You also had Nick Richards out there. And again, interesting that you have multiple former Hornets centers on this team when you think about it that way. Absolutely crazy stuff. Grayson Allen, definitely a three-point shooter, no question about it. Gillespie has been a wild card. And it feels like with what he would do in this game, it appears as though they're trying to make him a point guard off of the bench. Because they showed a graphic at some point that stated he was the leading three-point shooter in terms of total makes off the bench to start out this year. And it did not start out that hot for him. He could not settle into his shots. He was getting exposed on defense, which makes sense. I suppose he eventually settled in there. And this ineptitude from the Suns' offense would naturally allow the Clippers to creep back in the game. It was really just by them barreling down in the paint. They still couldn't make a lot of three-pointers. But it did help that John Collins would retain a mostly efficient game throughout this point. And he continued to get them in striking distance, while also getting a big man lob up to Issa Zubac to bring it within 2. They were chipping away at the lead, and before you knew it, with John Collins getting himself an and-one on Devin Booker from the dunker spot, he managed to give them the lead temporarily. But then the Suns managed to take it over completely. As, like, I'm sitting here questioning why the fuck the Clippers did this. Because then the shit just got out of hand. Like, all of these shots were just wide open. Dylan Brooks gets one, okay. Broken as that shit might be, fine. Then they allow Jordan Goodwin to just remain wide open for some reason. Uncontested. And he just shoots it from the wing. Like, where the hell is the defense in that situation? And it just would not stop. Devin Booker came back in, and with him distributing the ball all over the place, because in terms of assists, like, he was definitely on the money in this one. He just got their supporting cast in the spots they wanted to be in. And this is when Colin Gillespie just went absolutely nuclear, going for 3 different three-pointers in this stretch and getting 9 points in this section of the second quarter, eventually pushing Phoenix to have a 60-46 lead, and all coming as a part of a 19-4 overall closeout to the first half, along with an 11-0 run. Just like that, it felt like the Clippers were being put away right before our very eyes. It was mostly the same way to start out the third quarter, I would say. And it just continued to get on the whack as Devin Booker, again, was not really accounted for all that well. Granted, they wanted to put different guys on him, like Chris Dunn, for example. Even that wasn't enough in this game. Dylan Brooks also, for all the shit that he be talking about, this was a pretty good pass right here that he had to Mark Williams rather, in transition. Just completely lofted it over a defender, and Mark Williams was able to just take that, get right into a dunk. Like that was tremendous for them. Suppose that this motivated Bradley Beal especially to try to have some responses as he chipped in back-to-back threes. And then before you knew it, I mean, it was under a 10-point ball game again. Game of runs all the time, of course. You had different Suns contribute to putting this back up over double digits, but the Clippers, they were not totally out of the fight. And once this Cam Krisky three-pointer from the top of the key would go in, this is a 5-point ball game yet again. So all they needed to do, if they could continue to keep that going and they could improve their shooting percentage throughout this, I mean, hey, they had a shot. It was a 5-point ball game entering the fourth quarter. Nothing was necessarily impossible here. But they could not contest to save their lives. And even when they tried, for whatever reason, Grayson Allen was feeling himself. Man got in 2 different 3-point shots to start out the fourth quarter. I don't know who the fuck this man was feeling like. Like, just fading away, contested as hell. And he just splashed them shits right in the face of the defender. I couldn't fathom that shit happening. But it did. And, I mean, the Suns had, to this point, controlled most of the entire game between the balance of 3-point shooting and also getting in the paint with Mark Williams. But they had one last gasp of a trick up their sleeves, and that was Nicholas Batum. Again, like I said, every time this man shot the ball, it looked like his joint was fucking hurting. But that shit ended up being so clean that back-to-back 3-point shots from him managed to make this a 5-point ball game again as we were nearing clutch time. And he got in another 3-point shot as it essentially approached at this point. If not for Nicholas Batum, I mean, the Suns might have put this game away much earlier. But I suppose that's just the randomness of the Frenchman. Nevertheless, even with that progress being made, their inconsistencies would be their undoing. Now, I mean, the defense was there for the most part, but they, after a while, just could not hang in there. Devin Booker would get in another foul drawn eventually, and you also had Royce O'Neal managed to put the game away with a 3-pointer of his own off of Dylan Brooks' assist rather. And then to cap it off, Dylan Brooks himself, just because, wanted to have the last laugh, and I suppose he did. I don't know what the sequence was from John Collins around this point either. Just that is a microcosm of how this game went for the Clippers. And ultimately the Suns would win 114 to 103 rather. When you look at it, maybe that's a little bit of the garbage time, right? The Clippers definitely had the advantage in overall shooting from the field. And again, they definitely were able to control the paint. But, man, they started off so slow from the 3-point line. And it was hard for them to overcome that eventually. And the Suns had a much cleaner all-around game in their shooting splits here. They also managed to control the glass, having 42 total boards on the night and 13 rebounds here. Turnovers were about the same, but again, the Suns were also able, with that, to get in transition more, having a 14-point advantage and fast break opportunities there. Now, Devin Booker, looking at the numbers here, 5 turnovers is a lot, I mean wrong, but 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists for a near triple-double on 8 of 19 shooting. He stepped up, did whatever he had to do to lead the team, because honestly, with that Supermax extension, that is still the franchise guy you invested in all those years ago. So this is nothing that you shouldn't expect from him. Like, he is legitimately that kind of player. Interestingly enough, he didn't get a single three-pointer out of his 3 attempts, but that is fine, honestly. Mark Williams had 19 points and 6 boards with 2 steals on 7 of 9 shooting. Dylan Brooks had 16 points and 3 assists on 4 of 6 shooting with 2 threes. Grayson Allen also had 14 points and 3 assists in 31 minutes and with 4 3-pointers of his own. While Gillespie off the bench had 4 3-pointers off the bench to go along with 13 points and 6 rebounds. As for the Clippers, James Harden had 13 points and 13 assists. Decent at best, but at the same time, again, I don't know what it was. You can definitely credit Dylan Brooks with some of that. Again, yes, he's a shit talker, but he is still a damn good defender. And that, if anything, is what Jordan Ott should be trusting him to handle. You put him on what could be perceived as the Clippers' best player at this point, with no Kawhi being out there. And hey, you managed to limit his scoring prowess and efficiency like that. Even if James Harden has kind of metamorphosized into that over the past few seasons, he is still most lethal as a scorer. So he's a smart passer, but you would much rather have him carve your defense up as a passer. And that's exactly what happened. Like 4 of 15 shooting for the man and 2 of 10 from 3. If he was efficient, then we're talking about something. But again, the physicality there forced him into some difficult shots, and even the routine ones just wouldn't fall for him. Again, it happens on a night-to-night basis. But yeah, if the Clippers keep going through that could definitely become an issue. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Ivica Zubac had 21 points and 15 rebounds along with 4 assists on 10 of 12 shooting. Legitimately an underrated big man. Again, he has started to develop some of these other things along, and he's just been a consistent force for the Clippers all these years. Like, you gotta appreciate that. I mean, to think that the man was a former Laker as well, I know that they probably would have wanted him at some point as a potential alternative at times. Man. John Collins had 19 points in this game off the bench, along with 4 rebounds on 8 of 12 shooting with 2 threes. And also, Bradley Beal had 12 points on 4 of 9 shooting and just 3 assists. I'm shocked that he even reached that total. But, man, the Clippers would move to 3-6, and the Suns would move to 5-5 following this. I don't know. It's just been a rough stretch for the Clippers. Now, of course, there's nothing you can do because I watched this game last week as well, but again, wasn't as hard-pressed to discuss it at that point. You dropping a game to the Thunder is fair. And even still, some of the same issues were prevalent there. They allowed Isaiah Joe to have himself a fucking night from deep, and Aaron Wiggins. Shea's going to do Shea things. And Devin Booker is going to do Devin Booker things in this situation. You're not always going to be able to control what the best player does or doesn't do in a given game. But allowing his supporting cast to buy into that game plan and feed off of that relentlessly, it completely worked against the Clippers here. Like, they've got to get that stuff just completely hashed out. The West is tough and anything is possible, again, with the way that things have gone, nobody, like, we're literally in just the first 10 games of the season for some, a little less than that for others, and a little more for that than others. Like, we know how close these games have gotten and how close these seasons have gotten for Western Conference teams over just the past few years with the advent of the play-in. So, I mean, nobody's out of it right now. And that's the beauty of this. But continuing to go out like that, knowing that you also are depleted somewhat right now, as they have one of the, if not the oldest roster rather, in the league right now. So you don't have as much margin for error as some other teams do. And the goal would be not to fall too far into a hole that you cannot possibly come back from. Because honestly, this damn Suns team is a promising win for them. But hey, you look no further than what they went through last year, and you can see that, hey, that's not something you want to be a part of. So you got to figure it out sooner rather than later. But that'll do it for that specific game. As for a few other developments here, there was a report from Taurean stating that Erik Spoelstra's home had been burned in the midst of a vast fire. Granted, I have to look more into the situation. I don't know where exactly it took place, but I know that it's incredibly unfortunate that something like that happened. I can say that right now. So you just hope that his family's okay and that they, along with him, can find some other way, shape, or form to get proper shelter in this time. I mean, anytime you have an entire house burn away, and granted, again, we're looking at a, not necessarily celebrity in Spoelstra, but even just looking at it from the general sense of hearing that a person lost their home. And even that's different than being a person who actually lost one. Especially if you have a full-blown family. Like, there are not a proper amount of words that can put all the specific memories that took place in there and were created over that time. You can't put that into the verbal context. You just can't. So I could not imagine what they were going through in that situation at all. But again, it's devastating for sure. Not even just memories as well. Future prospects potentially. I don't know, just being able to have your own spot that you can come back home to consistently. Maybe not every day in Spoelstra's case. But, man, certainly tough. Yeah, never not the only person to go through it, but you definitely feel for the man. And hope that they can bounce back sooner rather than later in that regard. Cameron Thomas would be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks with an injury, and it is a hamstring injury. Okay, just making sure. This is from Taurean, but I didn't note that. So, that is devastating for his case. I mean, the jury's still out on him, especially with the Nets giving him that $6 million qualifying offer before the season started. The jury is still out on the man and what he can do, what he can't do, and how it affects their team. Because we actively see this right now. Like, I can pull up the Nets here and show you that, hey, he is certainly still getting in some solid games this season, but they have nothing. They are still actively a losing squad. And until they can get that shit figured out, why would they trust Cam Thomas at this point? I mean, yeah, he's balling, okay? Yeah, he just had a few games here where he's gotten a little hotter, getting 29 points against the 76ers and then 25 points against the Timberwolves, but in both losing efforts, where they lost by at least 15 points. So while he thinks or may think that he's got some value, at the same time, the same game he got injured in, they won. So it's like, I don't know. Do they truly view him as somebody they should invest long term in? If he is actively getting the individual numbers, but not truly contributing to winning all that much. I don't think so. Like, I watched a different video on YouTube. I had no idea that this man was asking for damn near $40 million. You can understand then why the Nets did not make the decision to give him a long-term deal. At the very least, even though we'd still be unsure, you'd want him to go out there and put it all out on display. He has to prove himself. And a hamstring injury of that kind, even if it is for a month, takes away opportunities to go out there and do the thing. You want him to recover from it, and you want him to be 100% after it so that he can put the best display of himself out there. But it truly hurts him from that outlook. It does. Lenny Wilkens yesterday would die at the age of 88, unfortunately. And it was weird to see. Like, it just happened so suddenly. I look at the ESPN ticker and it's blinking off for breaking news, and I'm like, okay, what did I just see? And then it comes back around and it shows that, hey, that's what happened. And I'm like, wow. Like, that's just crazy, man. Now, Wilkens is a person who is obviously a Hall of Fame player, but he's been so impactful generally that the Sonics, as I reported on in the summer a few months back, they just honored the man with a statue outside of their stadium. It's like truly just an all-around person from all accounts. Aside from the obvious accomplishments that he's had as a person who is still regarded as one of the top 100 NBA players of all time, generally speaking. I mean, it speaks for itself. One-time leader in assists and a consistent all-star throughout his career, en route to an all-star MVP in a tremendous career for multiple teams in the NBA at the time, including the Sonics, of course, and the St. Louis Hawks at this point. NBA history does get tricky at times. But even after that, he was a coach for an extensive period of time and even made the Hall of Fame yet again as a contributor there in 1998, while he was already there in 1989 as an NBA player. Just a person with tremendous impact all around. And to have him go out from, at least we haven't heard anything else outside of him just passing away. Like I've said at other points, you know, again, being able to live that long life in a player of Wilkins' case as well, and in a person of Wilkins' case as well, through all that early turmoil, and still manage to spark change in just about every facet of your life. And then be able to go out peacefully, unbothered, and just naturally without any supposed harm. Like, again, there's value in that. Even if it is definitely a sad moment that people are still grieving over generally. They just had a video out stating how coaches have done it. Obviously, his family is certainly feeling it right now. All those closest to him, generally speaking. Maybe friends, other loved ones, and I guess close contributors. Just truly tough. Definitely a person that won't be forgotten about. Taurean Prince, also per Shams Charania earlier, this seems a little crazy. Again, no medical person, but he is facing a herniated disc problem in his neck area, and he's going to miss an extensive period of time. I have a pretty funny feeling that is probably not something that should be put on visual display. It sounds like it fucking hurts. It sounds like it does. Like, that can mean a number of different things from an outsider's perspective. But ain't one of them shits pretty at all. It's interesting. Like, yeah, basketball is a non-contact sport. And I'm not really sure how Taurean Prince suffered it. There's a chance he could have collided with someone, but again, we'd have that information if that was the case. So it's definitely a personal matter, I guess, but I'd be interested to know how it happened. If it's just something that's natural, not necessarily natural, but I guess something that Prince, with maybe some kind of unknown condition per se, was subject to be dealing with. But again, that would be revealed at some point if that was the case. So there's nothing to really speculate at that point. He'd just know that he certainly needs the time to recover from it. And that in and of itself is fair. So hopefully he can recover from that. It sounds truly bad. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.